Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Peter Kate, but you can call me your finance PT, and I'm back with another video. I am a personal finance and business coach, and today I'm going to be talking you through how to do a checkup for your finances. Now, for our health, we have various checkups throughout our lives. We have health checkups to check the general health of our bodies. We also have checkups for our eyes. That reminds me, I'm due an optician appointment, but I will get to that in 2021. We also sometimes can have checkups for our hearing if we're struggling and we're finding that our hearing is changing throughout time. We can also have checkup for our teeth. You get the point. We have lots of health checkups when it comes to our body, but a lot of the times when it comes to our finances, this is an area that we don't really check the health of it. So as we're going into a new year, I think it's really, really important to do a financial health checkup. Now, the first thing you need to be looking at is your income to expenses. So irrespective of what you're earning, you need to be looking at how much of your salary or your income in general is going towards your expenses. So we're going to look at this as a whole. So let's say, for example, your salary each month is £2,000 or dollars, whatever your currency is, and you find that your expenses each month is, say, 1,600, 800, 1,900, or it's very, very close to your salary. That's going to be quite high. So I think it's really important when you're looking at your expenses to first and foremost start with your essential expenses. Now, these are going to be things that are essential. You need them. If you don't have these things, it's going to be very difficult for you to get by. For example, housing. You need to pay for your rent or your mortgage wherever you live. You also need to pay for your utilities as well. If you do have debts and you have a payment plan, that's also something you need to factor into your essential expenses. And other things, for example, like travel. You're going to need to pay for your petrol or your bus pass or train pass, however it is that you get around. So these are going to be your essential expenses. So of course, when you're looking at your fixed expenses or the things that you know are essential, you're going to be thinking about, as we're coming to a new year, perhaps you have contracts that are due for renewal. So if you find that you're paying for something and it's really, really high, definitely shop around. Even if the amount that you're paying is quite moderate, it's quite fair, still look around, shop around. There is no harm in seeing what there else is on the market. Also, you need to be looking at your flexible expenses. So flexible expenses would be things like food. Of course, we all need food. It is essential. However, maybe the amount you're spending on food is not quite essential. So you definitely need to be looking at food. I found with a lot of my clients that food, groceries, takeaways, all of those things are the number one cause of eating into people's budgets. A lot of people, they don't necessarily buy clothes every month, but of course we buy food, we need food. And where you're at home a lot more, and especially if you are working from home, you're going to be finding that you're eating more, so you're probably spending more money on your groceries. So definitely checking how much you are spending on that each month is really, really important. And overall, you need to be looking at your expense to income ratio. So you're going to calculate this by dividing your expenses from your incomes. So let's say, as an example, your expenses is £1,800 and your salary is £2,000. So you divide them, times it by 100, and this will give you a percentage. As a point of reference, I would say try to aim to get your expense to income ratio to 50%. But I know that this is not always ideal. A lot of people have, very low salaries and very high expenses. So I know that it's not always ideal to have 50%. However, aim to lower your expenses or increase your income so that you can kind of work your way around to the 50% mark, because that way you're going to be able to save more, invest more, and also use, you'll have more disposable income to use on yourself as well. So definitely look at reducing your expense to income ratio if you find that is very high. So that's your first starting point, looking at your income to expenses. Now, the next thing you need to be doing is a budget breakdown. Now, if you don't regularly budget on a monthly basis and budgeting is like, this is the first time you really considered it or thought about it, I would definitely say have a look at the last 3 months worth of your bank statements. I know that it may seem like such a big task and you think, oh, where will I find the time to do that? But if you have time to watch series online, if you have time to watch this video, I'm sure that you can make some time for your finances. It's so important. I know that it seems like such a long task. I won't lie to you, it is. However, it's going to be very, very useful for you. So definitely take some time in the next week or so to really just sit down and go through your bank statements. So not just looking at the amounts, but looking at what you're spending on different things and then categorizing things. So looking at groceries, takeaways, random purchases that you're not even sure what it is, miscellaneous items, clothing, footwear, gaming, if you buy games regularly, all that good stuff. So every single thing that you spend money on, you want to categorize those things. Also categorizing your utilities, your rent, your household expenses, etc. This is going to really help you to break down what you're actually spending money on each month. And it's going to be a very useful tool to help you to create a budget for the coming year. Now, for me personally, I don't create an annual budget because I feel like it's just too wide and a lot of the months may fluctuate. So what I normally do is, so what I've done with my 2021 budget is I filled in all my bills for the year, all the fixed expenses that I know that we will be paying. And then what I do normally is I would basically be budgeting my flexible expenses. So things like groceries, travel, treat me, we have a treat me budget, which is very important. So that's normally an amount that we will allocate for ourselves. We can spend it on whatever we want, and we'll normally have a different amount each month. It may be higher, it may be lower, depending on the demand of that month. And that really helps a lot. I think when you don't have a treat me budget and you're just treating yourself endlessly with no control or limits to what you're actually spending, it can get very dangerous, and you can find yourself constantly having to go into your savings to cover your bills for the month. So definitely setting yourself a treat me budget, but also having a miscellaneous budget this year has taught me I definitely always need to have a miscellaneous budget, because sometimes there's random things that pop up that aren't necessarily in my usual budget categories, and I have to factor in an amount for that. So I've started to do that, and that's definitely been very, very helpful for us. So definitely factoring in a miscellaneous budget. This amount, you can put it according to what you can afford, and just also factoring in roughly what are the random costs that come up and how much do they cost, and then you allocate an amount for that. Now, if there are no miscellaneous items that pop up during the month, then you can save that amount or spend it on something else. So that's definitely something I'd say. And you would be surprised when you actually go through your numbers, add things up, how much you are spending on different things. You may think, oh, I hardly spend any money on food, and you have a random number in your mind. But when you actually put pen to paper and you start calculating and adding everything up, that's when you will really see your reality. So I would highly suggest that you go through at least your last 3 months worth of bank statements, really checking what you have been spending your money on, because you might be very, very surprised at what you have spent. And also you may find that you've been paying for things, services that you're not using, or random purchases that was not used. So definitely do that. It's going to save you a lot of time in the long run, and it's going to also give you a more accurate view of how your finances is right now. Now, the next thing I would go into is savings. Okay, so one of the key things you need to be looking at is how much were you able to save in the year of 2020. If you were able to save, great. Even if what you saved wasn't a lot, or maybe it wasn't in line with your saving goal, the fact you're able to save something is great. Unfortunately, this year, a lot of people have lost their jobs or they've been on furlough, and it's been very difficult to be consistent with saving. But I would definitely say if you are someone that right now you have no savings, or you have very minimal savings, this year you need to create a plan that's going to enable you to start saving, even if it's a small amount. I know sometimes for a lot of us, we feel like, oh, what's the point of saving if it's a small amount? Save it. Even if it's £10 a month and that's all you can afford to save, then save that £10 a month, because there will become a time that you will need that £10 a month saving, and it will make such a massive difference. So don't allow the fact that it may seem like a small amount to stop you from saving. Do it, create the habit of doing so. If you're the kind of person that you're like, oh, I need a pay rise, I want more money. We all want more money, right? And you can't manage what you have now, you're deceiving yourself. So definitely create the habit of saving. It's a basic finance skill. Saving is not going to make you a millionaire. However, saving is a good habit to have. So definitely develop this habit. And one thing I'd say is, once you have gone through your income to expenses and you start creating a budget each month, deciding how much do I actually need to spend on food? How much do I actually need to spend on travel, gifts, all the things you spend money on, my personal care items, my household items, how much do I need to spend on these things? You can then, as soon as you've done your budget, what I normally recommend is doing this before you get paid. Because a lot of the time what happens, you get payday excitement and you start spending away, you start treating yourself without considering, the fact that you need to save something, without considering other financial obligations you have. So definitely create your budget before you get paid, and then you can then overview it so you can ensure that what you've budgeted is actually accurate for that month. And always consider, what are my essential purchases this month? Sometimes you create a budget, but things pop up. If you have children, maybe they need some new shoes, or they have a trip at school. So definitely factor in those things and really think about that. That's going to help you a lot. And then as soon as you've done your budget, once payday comes, automate your savings. Set up a standing order. If you have like a minimum amount you want to save, I'd always say have a minimum amount for that. So let's say, for example, your savings goal is to save at least £100 every month. Automate your savings. Set up that standing order. So as soon as you get paid, or maybe the day after you get paid, that saving goes out. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to physically transfer the money. It will do it on its own. So definitely automate your savings. That is going to help you massively. And as the month progresses, if you found that you've underspent, then transfer some more money. So that way you know that every single month you are saving consistently. So definitely automate your savings. And one thing I'd say as well, if you find right now you don't have a lot of savings and you feel like, PK, if I lost my job today, I am finished because I have hardly any savings, the best time to start is now. If you find that your expenses is very high, start looking at things that maybe you can cut out, things you don't need right now. Even if you only manage to cut out, say, £30 worth of bills, that's £30 you could be saving each month. So don't despise the little amounts because they do add up. And what I would say as well, if you're someone like, why do I need to save? It's okay, everything will be fine. Save. If this year has taught us anything else, is that you always need to have reserves. You cannot just rely on your salary because anything can happen. So also, when you're looking at the health of your savings, you need to be checking the amount that I have saved. If I was to lose my source of income today, my main source of income, how long would I be able to survive for? Would I be able to survive for a month without needing to borrow money from friends or family or use a credit card or overdraft in order to sustain me? Would I have, how long would I last essentially on the savings I have? That's definitely something to consider. If you look at your savings right now and you're like, I could probably survive one day, then that should be some motivation for you to get started with your emergency fund or your savings in general. As a rule of thumb, I would say try to save as a beginning starter point at least 1 month's worth of your essential expenses. So all the things you would need to get by, save for that amount. So if that amount is going to be £1,000 for you, 1,500, whatever that amount is, start with that. Once you've hit that amount, you can then start to extend it and think about 3 months worth, 6 months worth, and so on. But at least for the start point, try to save up at least 1 month's worth of your expenses. Very, very important. And when that moment comes, if that moment comes, you're going to be very grateful that you did that, because you're not going to have to worry about money. You're not going to have to be borrowing money from people, then having that extra worry and also the shame of it as well. Oh my gosh, I'm going to need to pay this person back. You don't want to have those awkward phone calls that you're ignoring people's calls. Yeah, so definitely that's the next one. And then super important, is credit rating. Checking your credit rating. If you don't check it frequently, I would definitely suggest checking your credit rating on a monthly basis. Not only just to see what your credit rating is, but sometimes fraud is so prevalent, especially where we use a lot of contactless payments now. We also use our phones a lot to pay for things. Fraud is prevalent, okay? Fraud is prevalent, so make sure you're checking your credit rating on a regular basis. What I do is I've signed up with a couple of agencies. Experian, every month they will send me and let me know if there's been any changes to my credit report. I also have ClearScore, which is also free because I'm not paying. And they also update me every month, letting me know if my credit rating has changed. And it's a great way for me to keep track of things and make sure everything on my report is correct. So even if you say there's no point me checking PK, my credit report and it's terrible, I already know, check on a monthly basis. You want to ensure that what is there is accurate, and also seeing the progress of your credit rating as well. So definitely looking at that. If right now your credit rating is poor, it's fair, or it's not very good, you need to be thinking about the factors of why. Is it because you have a lot of debt? Is it because your credit utilization is too high or too low? Is it because you frequently do late payments, or because you don't pay your bills on time, or just don't pay at all? So looking at all those factors is important so that you can know what you need to do to build up your credit rating. I do have a video on credit rating, so you can definitely check that out. And that will let you know a little bit more about factors, things that you may be doing that's affecting your credit rating in a negative way. So if you're like, I don't know why my credit rating is bad, check out that video. It's going to help you to figure it out. Next thing, another thing to check the health of your finances is your habits. This is one of the greatest ways to check the health of your finances. Your habits will determine your success or failure in everything, and it is no different when it comes to your finances. If you have a bad habit of spending every single penny that comes into your hands, you're going to find you have minimal savings or no savings at all. You're going to find it's easy for you to get yourself into debt. So definitely looking at your habits. How do you manage your money? When you have money, what is your bargaining tool in your mind when it comes to spending? How do you view money? Is it a tool for you? Is it a luxury? All of these things, all the habits that you have, how do you respond? What is your relationship with money like? That's the key thing. You have to look at what is your relationship with money. If you say, Peter K, me and money are in an entanglement, it's not a good relationship. Online shopping is taking all my money. I don't know, debts are taking all my money. I just can't help myself. I'm always spending above my means. Then definitely look at your habits. This is something you need to work on. A lot of the time when we're coming to a new year, we set ourselves goals, but also you need to set yourself habits you want to build in the new year. This is going to help you massively. If you change your habits, you're going to change the direction of your life, and you're going to see that you're going to be a lot more effective in reaching your goals. So look at your habits, look at your relationship with money, look at how you spend, look at your money management strategy and how effective that actually is. Look at also what are the things you're buying each month. If you find every single month you're buying lots of clothes, shoes, or not just clothes, because not everybody buys clothes every month, but perhaps you're buying things that you don't really need every month, and you're saying to yourself, I can't afford to save, my finance goals seem impossible, then that's definitely something you need to be looking at. It's super, super, super important. Another very important factor to think about when looking at your financial health is debt. Debt is often an area that really eats up a lot of people's money. You can be earning a very high salary, but if you have a lot of debts, that will be burning a hole in your pocket. So debt is definitely something to have a look at. So looking at how much you owe, who you owe. So let's say, for example, you have a lot of credit card debt, or you have payday loans that you're still struggling to pay back, or you have bank loans, overdraft, you owe family members, whoever it is you owe. Going into the new year, write down all the people you owe, all your creditors, and how much you owe. If you don't already have some sort of payment plan, you definitely need to start looking at how much can you actually afford to pay back. And if you are struggling to make ends meet, if you are struggling to make those payments, speak to your creditors. There are charities as well that can help as well if you are in debt. So definitely don't ignore it. Don't bury your head in the sand. I know that this is often something we do when we have debt because we don't want to face it, especially when it's a lot of debt. But honestly, this is something that you need to be looking at. Do not ignore your debt. If you have debts and you've had a payment plan and maybe you've been making the minimum payments, or perhaps we've been overpaying some months, definitely look at how much longer it's going to take for you to clear your debts, and review, whether the payments you're making is whether you can pay a little bit more, whether, that's really going to take you towards clearing your debts as soon as possible. So definitely reviewing how much you've been paying on your debt, how much longer it's going to take you to clear your debt. So definitely looking at your debt management plan, if you have one, and really factoring in who you owe, how much you owe, and how long it's going to take you to actually clear your debt. If you don't already have a plan for how you're going to clear your debt, definitely create one. That's super important. There's no point just hoping for the best, hoping to win the lottery. No, you need to have a proper plan in place of how you're going to clear those debts. If you need help, there are debt advisors. I can also help you as well, giving you some suggestions of things that you can do. But the key thing is have a plan in place. Don't just ignore it. Don't just pretend it's not there. Have a plan for your money. Have a plan for how you're going to clear those debts, because it's very, very important. It's not always about what you earn, but what you keep. And if debt is taking all of your money, you need to look into how you can sort that out, how you can clear that as soon as possible. So yeah, definitely that is a factor you need to look at, because perhaps what's bringing down the health of your finances is the debts you have. And also it's important to look at what brought you into debt. Was it because you didn't have emergency savings? Was it because you took a lot of things out on credit thinking it would be easy to pay back and it was a lot more difficult than you anticipated? So looking at the reasons that led you into debt is very, very important as well, because it's one thing to clear your debt, it's another thing to get yourself back in debt, which happens to a lot of people. So you really need to analyze the reasons that led you to getting into debt so that you can avoid getting yourself back into debt again. Now, if your only debt is a mortgage, that is fine. That is a debt you're using to leverage and pay off your house eventually. That's different. I'm talking about credit card debts. Credit card debts are out of your control. I'm talking about, debts that you've not even, started paying on it. They're still unsecured. So definitely looking at those factors are going to be important. Okay, next thing, investments. So as we're coming to the end of the year, you need to be looking at your investments. So if you have any investments, let's say you have a stock portfolio, you're in the property market, or you've got a pension. I know depending on the pension you have, sometimes it will be around the new financial year that you get your annual pension statement. But if you are going to get one in January, definitely have a look at it. Sometimes when people get their annual pension statement, what do? You open it, you look at it, you don't really pay attention to the numbers, but definitely take the time to read through. If you don't understand it, there's always a customer service helpline. Call, speak to them. I don't really understand, what does this mean? I think it's really important when you do have investments to keep an eye on them. Don't just be ignorant or lazy and not check things, just assuming that everything is going to be okay. Make sure you are keeping track of your investments to see the direction, to see how much growth that you had within the year, so that you can really assess whether those investments are wise or not, and things that you can do to tweak things. Maybe let's say in terms of your pension, you may decide in 2021 you want to contribute a little bit more because your projected pension right now is not going to be something you can live on comfortably or matching the lifestyle you want to have when you retire. So definitely look at those things. Super important. Next things, you need to be looking at your goals versus your actions. So look at those 2020 goals that you had for your finances. Now, I'm well aware that there may have been goals that you weren't able to achieve this year because of the instability we had. There have been goals that I had, didn't happen. But I'm not beating myself up about it, because there are other goals I had that I was able to achieve, and even things that, to be honest, I never even bargained on doing financially, and I was able to do this year. So I definitely say reviewing the goals that you had and really looking at, why those goals did not happen. Was it because of timing? Was it because of the pandemic? Maybe you were directly affected by it and there was just some things you just could not work on. And also look at, also maybe it wasn't the pandemic that impeded you from achieving that goal. So look at the actions that you had set out, or perhaps you set out goals but you didn't set out actions. So definitely look at what are the actions that you can start taking in 2021 that's going to enable you to reach your goals. So look at those goals, but also think about the actions, think about the strategies, think about what can I do to get me from point A to point Z, where I want to get to. Super important. I keep saying super important, but I want to emphasize that it is very important. Okay. So that is just a very, very quick overview of ways that you can check the financial health of your finances. Now, if you've gone through all of these factors that I discussed and you find you're like, oh my gosh, Peter K, my finances is a hot mess, I am not happy with, the current state of my finances, and you need some help in this department, I am always here to help. If you follow me on Instagram, if you're not already following me on Instagram, all my handles are there, all my social media handles, my Instagram, my website is there. Check it out, subscribe. I'm always here to help. If you have any questions and you're like, PAK, where do I start? Send me a message. I'm pretty much always on my phone because I do a lot of work from my phone. I will reply as soon as I can. And if you're like, do you know what, PAK, I am ready to just really go hard in 2021. I want to see my finances go into the next level. I want to stop surviving in my finances and I want to start thriving. I would definitely recommend booking in a coaching session. As a starting point, I'd say book in my finance 101 session. I've had clients that they've only ever had a finance 101 session with me, but they have taken the knowledge, they've taken the plan, their skills, and they have gone hard. And as a result, they've been able to clear their debts. This is all within the last 6 months, by the way. They've also been able to save more than they've ever been able to save before. They've been able to start building up their credit ratings. I definitely suggest heading over to www.pearlsandperils.com so you can start checking that out. Or maybe I'll put it here. I haven't decided yet, haven't edited yet.